very good evening to those that are joining us from Canada and the USA. A very warm welcome to everyone to the launch of our third flagship global event, Circular Cities Week 2021. We are so happy and grateful that you all have made time to join us today. My name is Jacqueline, and I'm one of the CEC leaders for the CEC Malaysia clubs, and I will be your MC today. If you have your mobile phones and laptops near you, or even a notebook, please take a screenshot and scan the QR code you see on the screen. The Slido code is CCW 2021. We will have a few polls with you at the end of the webinar. Allow me to kickstart today's webinar with some welcome remarks. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, the Circular Economy Clubs in Malaysia was created when we received our license from CEC Global in April 2019. The people on the screen are my course mates from CISL and founding members of the CECs in Malaysia. Since then, we have expanded the club from Kuala Lumpur, Petaling Jaya, Penang, Johor Bahru, and Penampang in Sabah. The people you see on the screen are the other CEC leaders that manages their clubs in their cities. The CEC was created as an online hub way back in 2012 by Ms. Anna Tari, the founder, for circular economy enthusiasts to access the latest information about circular economy reports and projects. In 2015, CEC was formally established as a club in London to bring more visibility, the right tools, funding, and connections to circular initiatives and professionals worldwide. CEC grew from 50 members in 2015 to being the largest international network in the circular economy field, present in over 260 cities with over 6,000 professionals and organizations in over 100 countries. Our parent organization is the Circular Economy Institute based in the USA. We envision a new age where all cities worldwide function through a circular model, setting the end to an age of waste. These are some categories of our key members to date on a global scale. This is our online outreach over the last decade. We have a support team of 35 people across the globe and around 55 mentors that lead the mentoring program. This is a snapshot of how we are mapped across 5 continents. Since we were established, CEC leaders have organized more than 600 outreach activities and events on circular economy, engaging with over 35,000 participants to date. All CEC leaders are appointed as volunteers in their role to lead from the heart and to create shared value in action. Due to our hard work, we are humbled to have received several awards and accolades over the years. The one award that we are quite proud of is the Sustainable Development Goals Action Awards. In the photo, you can see our founder, Ms. Anna Tari. She was receiving an award by her Prime Minister way back in 2018 for advancing circular economy via the CECs. Without further delay, we are happy to kickstart our webinar today and would like to thank all our key partners you see on the screen, especially Duncan and Donnie, who is here with us today from Think City Institute. Before we begin, kindly allow me to share why the Circular Cities Week was first established. Since the commencement of the pandemic, CEC leaders realized that the circular economy agenda is more critical than ever. And today, we hope to achieve 2 key objectives you see on the screen for the entire week. Push for relevant sectors in cities around the world to issue a joint statement committing to start embedding circularity and raise awareness about the potential for the circular economy framework to build resilient sectors and therefore cities, especially considering the current COVID-19 pandemic. I invite you to take a screenshot so you know how important your attendance is today in creating and formulating this joint statement with us, which I will be circulating after the Circular Cities Week. This year, the CECs in Malaysia is focusing on the fashion industry and their sectorial stakeholders for a multi-call for action. Today, we hope to achieve on a personal level with all of you 3 key objectives. You can also take a screenshot of this, and then when we activate the Slido poll later, you can look back and reflect if we have done so collectively. 1, I hope that you are inspired to be a more conscientious business and consumer after this webinar, understanding the benefits of both the circular and sustainable fashion and its impact on the environment. We also hope that you will feel more knowledgeable and will support eco-friendly, sustainable and circular fashion brands in the market to scale circular economy initiatives within the industry and create the demand in the market. And finally, to be brave and to act now. Maybe consider start changing your old habits, shop responsibly, start a CE conversation at work, or even share what you have learned today within your network. Without further ado, I've come to the end of my welcome remarks, and let's begin our journey to create shared value in action together. Thank you. Today, our keynote speaker is Liligo Sedagat from the National Geographic Explorer. I had the pleasure of meeting Lily way back in November 2019 at the UN Environment Programme, the Sea of Solutions in 2019 in Bangkok. Despite a rather hectic work day, I was moved and inspired by her storytelling on the UN stage with all of us. We have kept in touch, and I'm so proud and grateful that she has made time to launch the Circular Cities Week 2021 with all of us, with a keynote applying the circular mindset, clothing that connects us. Lily is joining us all the way from the US tonight. She is the National Geographic's first women-led sea-to-source Ganges River plastic expedition and Fulbright National Geographic Digital Storytelling Fellow. With her stories, Lily aims to make science accessible to the greater public and spark the realization that every choice we make affects the environment. Today, she hopes to transform your perceptions of trash from something disposable to something valuable. She has presented at United Nations World Environment Day India, National Geographic Live Series, TEDx, and helped launch the Plastic or Planet campaign in both mainland China and Hong Kong. She has worked with UNEP and UN Women to coordinate a regional storytelling bootcamp for early career journalists in the Asia Pacific region on women and climate resilience. In late 2021, Lily will build one of the first visual databases of circular economy initiatives in Taiwan and focus on human stories as a part of a National Geographic Early Career Storytelling Grant. She believes the power of stories and people to change the world, and I'm so proud to introduce her to all of you. Lily, a very warm welcome from Malaysia, and the screen is now yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jackie, for such a warm welcome. It's so touching to know that we have this beautiful relationship. And that's one of the things that's really powerful about connection, right? Is irrespective of where you are in the world, you can meet people who believe in the same things that you do, and together you can make the world a better place. So I'm really excited to meet all of you today and to launch the Circular Cities Week for Malaysia. I have prepared a presentation for you. It's going to walk you through a series of stories and videos and photographs to help bring to light some of the points that I want to share today. So without any further ado, let's get started. Great. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can. Lily, you can go ahead. Hello, Lily, you can go ahead. Hi, Lily, can you hear us?
It looks, Jacqueline, like we might have lost Lily.
Well,
She
she's
may have
saying
a
that her
internet
her
connection.
laptop just turned off automatically.
Hmm.
She's turning it back on.
Okay. Do you want to wait for her, or shall we proceed to the next
Shall we give her a
session?
few minutes?
Okay.
Okay, she's back in, Duncan. I'm going to make
Okay.
wait a sec. Where is she?
Yep, we can see you, Lily Gold. You're muted though. Your microphone's muted.
Hi, Lily. You are.
Okay, we're back. You know, it's always really funny when you're about to launch into a great presentation and a great keynote and kick off an awesome thing, and then your computer dies. You're like, well, you know, at least I'm the first person to have technical difficulties. So anyone else who has technical difficulties after will be okay, because I've already made the first mistake. So you guys are good. All right, let's get started on it, shall we? Hopefully the computer doesn't die. Okay, great. Awesome. Okay. So as Jackie mentioned, we're going to discuss applying the circular mindset, clothing that connects us. So I wanted to give you a brief introduction. So my name is Lily Gall, or Lily Sedigat, and I'm a National Geographic explorer and multimedia storyteller who focuses on plastics, recycling, and the circular economy. I help to bring to light and visualize our relationship to waste and the people working on the front lines of these systems, making sure that our things go in the right place. Today, I want to share with you 3 distinct stories from across the Asia-Pacific region to demonstrate not only what circularity means and looks like, but how we can adopt these principles in our own lives to make a difference. As a start, circularity is the idea that how we make things, how we use them, how we dispose of them, all result in zero waste. The things that come from the earth go back to the earth. The things that are man-made get circulated continuously until their end of life. And it doesn't just take from the planet. It helps to regenerate the planet, and how we all play a very, very crucial part in making this happen. Now, I'm no circular fashion expert, and I'm really excited to learn from all of you today to fill in my knowledge gap. But I believe that the stories that I'm going to share with you today can serve as a backdrop for what this whole weekend is going to be about. Positivity, connection, new ways of thinking, and the hope that we can indeed change for a better future. So my journey to circularity began because I really love boba milk tea. I grew up in San Diego, California, and down the street from my father's apartment was a Taiwanese tea house. And I would go there every day after school, each time ordering a large iced boba milk tea, sometimes with half sugar, sometimes with no boba. And I would sit down there and drink it. And then I would drink it, and then I would throw away the single-use plastic cup and straw. And then I'd come back the next day and I'd drink my favorite drink, and I'd throw away the single-use plastic cup and straw. I became a VIP because I pretty much went there all the time. But then one day, as I got my boba milk tea and I sat in that same orange chair, facing the same window, a question popped into my head. Where does all of this go once I throw it away? I turned around to the trash can behind me, and it was filled to the brim with single-use plastic cups and straws. And I recalled that today's trash didn't hold yesterday's garbage. I then realized that I was complicit in this out of sight, out of mind practice that was culturally bound, something that I was actively contributing to and later would come to know was the take, make, waste disposable system. But then I thought to myself that every single time that I drink the drink that I love, I'm harming the environment I love. And again, that I was complicit in this linear economic system where you're taking things from the earth, you're making them into something, and you're throwing them away with no end destination other than waste. It was there that I realized that I had to go to Taiwan to understand this international plastic supply chain. This island, 7,000 miles across the Pacific, that connected me to my hometown by means of boba tea. And it was there that I came to discover circularity. It came to me in the form of small exhibits tucked away in winding alleys and poorly lit and urbanly dense neighborhoods, away from the city's big lights. It came to me on the doorsteps of quiet warehouses filled with used furniture and broken luggages that were turned into art. In the shadow of towering buildings that were made 100% out of recycled bottles. And in small sitting circles with volunteers and men and women who would pull away toys and cut the edges of music sheets and separate clear and colored plastic bottles for the purpose of recycling and reusing. I then came to discover that this was an entire way of life, bound to the idea of cycling resources with the notion that everything had value, that something could be more than just a single use or a single design, and that the key to this was a group of people who saw and believed that these things shouldn't just be thrown away, that in fact they could be transformed, repurposed, redistributed to meet the needs of the people in our local community. Today, Taiwan has over 150 different circular initiatives, and the circular economy is embedded in the 5+2 Innovative Industries Plan that ties together the economy with the environment, connecting not only how people live, but the manner in which they can live and live better. And actually, through the Circular Economy Club Taiwan, I came across some really cool circular initiatives, one of which was a group of young people who would go to markets at the end of the day and collect fruit that was ugly looking or that was close to being overripe. And they would take this and prevent it from being disposed as food waste and transform them into these colorful, fun popsicles that you could enjoy on a hot summer day or a humid night. The concept of waste as a resource came to life in an exhibit called Future Perfect, which was hosted by Taiwanese entrepreneurs who wanted to show people in Taipei what life could look like if we went circular. As I stepped into the space, walking past a bunch of people sitting on chairs that were made from the leftover waste of shoe materials, with mini composters, and even circular sanitation products, I came to realize that this was doable, that we had the answers, and it was just a matter of willingness and exposure to be able to do it. The man who was critical to designing this entire thing was a man named Martin Su, who ran a textile manufacturing company that worked with big brands to produce shoes, creating both the materials and the processes in a very intricate supply chain. He believes that sustainability can be taken to a whole nother level if manufacturers are the ones to implement their own circular standards and principles, and instead of receiving direct direction from big brands with little to no connection to the operating processes. With his company, Yichen, He hopes to go fully circular by the year 2030, designing out waste from both materials and the production process. He told me that we reduce waste from the start and we reuse from the end. He believes that the world doesn't need more fashion. It needs better fashion. And that all the entities in the production site need to challenge the status quo and to put resources into new business materials to create demand-based manufacturing, not manufacturing based on demand. To do this, his company researched their energy, waste, water, and chemical processes to determine where the waste and inefficiencies are. To reach zero emissions, they're changing the way they use energy to renewables. To reach zero waste, meaning little to no fabric, and even zero waste in their wastewater or chemical processes, they're designing for end of life and finding partners to help keep those difficult man-made materials continuing to move in cycles throughout their life. And the things that come from the earth safely go back to being in the earth. Through understanding the different processes and materials and treating everything as a resource, he realizes that things become circular, that you can use partners to help ferry things away from one direction to another and to help us understand the different connections that we have and bring everything together. Connection was also a really big theme at Abbot Params Temple outside of Bangkok, Thailand. I visited him after completing a 2,525-kilometer journey up the Ganges River from the Bay of Bengal in Bangladesh all the way to the summit of the Himalayas to understand how plastic moves through land, communities, and ends up as marine debris in the water. The tie between the Ganges River, which supports over 600 million people across Bangladesh and India, and the Chao Phraya River in Bangkok, that flows into the area is strong. Historically, both communities have used rivers as waste management systems, ferrying away the things that they would throw out. But since the introduction and mass production of plastic and the buildup of industrial sites along these waterfronts that pour toxic chemicals in from dyeing processes for clothes and leather, the rivers have become even more polluted and unable to clean themselves. The abbot became famous because he was one of the first monks to actively connect the Buddha's teachings to environmental principles. He told me that the Dharma is circular economy. And when he was studying, he went from temple to temple to try and find someone who understood the same ideas that he did. Ultimately, he started his own temple to bring these ideas together in his teachings. The abbot invites the public, everyone, to bring in plastic bags and plastic bottles they would normally discard, and instead, he would bring them to the temple and give them his blessing. From there, he runs a recycling program, hiring people who are generally disabled or out of work to be able to sort these materials, then shipping them to a factory which takes and transforms them into fibers that they then use to weave monks' robes. In fact, this idea is not something relatively new. It was conceived by the Buddha 2,600 years ago, where he encouraged ordained monks to make their robes from cloth that was found in scrap heaps or in graveyards. They would then take this material, boil it in water with a type of bark to remove and kill the germs, and then be able to dye it with fruit to create the rich, vibrant color that you see. In addition to connecting with these ancient principles and ideas, the abbot also runs a massive composting system at the temple, where food is taken, composted, and made into fertilizer. It's also made into other things as well: shampoos, soap bars, health juices, and they're all overseen by a monk who was once a practiced agriculturalist and a scientist. At Wat Chathayon, Buddhism is directly connected to circularity, helping to emphasize that we are all a part of this world, connected to the earth by the things that we eat, the clothes that we wear, and the things that we dispose. Everything about this connectivity is to help us understand our responsibility to shepherd things into their next stage of life, to see them more than just a single use or a single design. This idea of connection is strongly linked to value. When you have a connection to something, you care for it. And when you care for it, it suddenly doesn't become something that you just want to throw away. In fact, it's connected to a memory, maybe a person, someone that you love and you treasure, and gives you the incentive to want to keep it for the rest of your life and have it change with you as you change their life. It's made me reflect on my own clothes that I wear that are my mom's or my dad's or my partner's, things that I carry with me, the breakdance clothes that I borrow from my partner, and the fact that he has given me all these things so that I have the freedom and the functionality to be able to move in a way that makes me feel connected to him and imbue the spirit of him, but also the thing that I love to do. The idea of caring for something goes beyond the notion of clothes or shoes. It also extends to our relationships as well. What happens when we decide to throw out a relationship that no longer suits us or is no longer pretty, that's broken, a little torn? What happens when instead we can take the time to understand why it's broken, to understand how we can make it better, and work through it to carry it through its next phase of life? Throwing things out isn't the only option. We can work together and understand what they are and what they become to make a difference. But the challenge with connection is that it's very complex. When you start to think of how something is made, like take clothes, for example, how it's made, with what, how it got to you, what environmental impact it had along the way to get to you, how you use it, what happens after you dispose of it, the connections can be really overwhelming. But they are there, and they are happening. And when we begin the process of understanding, to unpack this complexity, we begin to understand who we are as humans and what impact we really have on each other and the planet. And it is from this place that we can adopt a circular mindset and mentality to everything, and not just things that we buy, but the way we approach life. I'd like to end this presentation with a final story of an 800-mile bike ride down the Pacific coast of the United States of America, where I wore only the clothes on my back and whatever I could fit into a small pack. It was the height of the pandemic in the United States, and nobody knew what was going on. Political tensions rippled across communities before the 2020 presidential election, and climate change was a looming force before the Pacific Northwest. As storytellers, my partner Corey and I knew we needed to break down the compounding complexities to understand what was happening so that we could share that with others and make a difference. It took us close to 3 weeks to be able to complete the journey from Portland, Oregon down to San Francisco, California. We crossed through 33 different communities, 12 counties, 7.8 latitudes of latitude, 4 climatic regions, 2 states, and a single divided nation. We were as close to our evolutionary ancestors as possible, and as close to being as biologically human as possible. The energy from the food that we ate went directly into the power propelling us forward. And it was here that we recognized the true essence of clothes, that they were made to help keep us warm, to be able to protect us from the cool winds that blow off the ocean in the morning, from the heat that dawns upon us at noon hour, to protect us from the elements, to help other people identify who we are as we move through many different communities as outsiders coming in. We realized that they were multi-purpose and multi-use, where t-shirts could be used as towels, sweaters could be used as blankets. We had only what we could carry and treasured these resources in their functionality and the durability. The bike journey was a process of discovery and understanding, a way to understand the connection between humans and nature. How the changing climate not only affects things like expanding tan oak disease, killing off large oak trees that grow acorns, but how the death of these oak acorns also affect people, the native peoples, the Pomo Native American peoples, as the acorns are a source of not only their livelihood, but their sense of identity. It was then that we came to realize the environment as our identity, and our clothes as the bridge that connected the two. Today, fast fashion is the largest polluting industry after oil and gas, whose greenhouse gases are much more than international aviation and marine industries combined. In its manufacturing of demand, a dump's truck worth of trash is either burned in an incinerator or thrown into a landfill every single second. In its speed, it devalues the process, the time, the effort that it takes to make clothes. The harvesting, the peeling, the drying, the cutting, the web spinning, the threading, all of this and the people who make it, contingent upon the seasons and the climate and our health and well-being. So what we wear and how it is made truly matters. Our clothes come with us on this journey through life. They are part of what blends us in, stands us out, makes tasks easier to do, and protects us. They connect us to the planet and to the people who make them. In this way, we have a responsibility to care for them, maintain them, use them so they can help us achieve what it is we want to achieve through comfort and practicality, again, function and durability. Clothes are a visual representation of our values and who we are. From the way they are made to the way we use them and take care of them, they are an indication of how we feel about ourselves and the planet. In today's world, it's not just enough to now understand the clothes making process and its environmental impact. And it's not just enough to try to upcycle things or recycle them. Those are really noble and worthy starts. But to truly embrace a circular fashion model and to live in balance with the planet, we have to stop thinking in silos, stop considering us as just consumers or just producers, embracing roles beyond a fashion designer or a fashion wearer. That instead, we must recognize that we're all in this together, that we play a part and contribute to this system and have to work together to get there, to reach our desired collective future. All of this starts with this conference at this time, the people you'll meet today and tomorrow who touch all different aspects and sides of this fashion value chain. Together, we can build a community, we can discover new ideas and embrace the notion that yes, we can and do need to change. Because at the end of the day, we are human, connected to each other and the planet from both the things that we use and the things that we wear. Thank you very much for allowing me to be a part of this. I'm really excited to learn from all of you. And Jackie, I'll hand it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lily, for that very inspirational and moving story that you shared with us. And now I would like to invite the man of the day, Mr. Duncan Cave, the lead from Think City Institute, who will be your moderator of the day. He is assisted by his right-hand man, Donnie Yu. Duncan Cave is the lead for the Think City Institute, the knowledge, learning and advocacy arm of Think City, a community-focused urban regeneration organization based in Malaysia. Over the past 12 years or so, Think City has worked closely with local councils, the private sector, local and international organizations, and various communities, creating a unique methodology for urban regeneration. Through the Think City Institute, it aims to share that knowledge and know-how and build capacity of city makers within Malaysia, ASEAN, and the world. The Institute partners with a wide range of regional and global experts to deliver online and physical courses, seeking out where gaps lie in the local city making process, introducing best practices with a strong emphasis on making our cities more livable, more sustainable, and more resilient. This is also a key reason why they have been our strategic partner for 2 years in a row for the Circular Cities Week. These two guys are amazing people to work with, and I'm so grateful they are making time to be with us here today. Without further delay, Duncan, a very warm welcome, and the screen is now yours.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. That's a very kind introduction. Feel very flattered to be here again. It's lovely for you to invite me and the Think City Institute to be part of the Circular Cities Week again. I remember last year how inspiring some of the presentations were, and I'm looking forward to another great session today. And Lily Gold has already done a wonderful presentation, so she set the bar very high. So over the next 3/4 of an hour or so, we'll be having 3 presentations, and we're actually going to follow that with a chance for you, the audience, to ask some questions. So it might be handy for you to post your questions in the chat box during the presentations as they come to you, and we can try and get back to them at the end. So our first speaker is Padanya Ahri, who is the General Manager at TL John. Padanya graduated with a master's and a bachelor's degree in rubber technology and polymer science from the Prince of Songkla University in Patani. After graduation, he worked at Patani Industry Limited and as a researcher at the Department of Rubber Technology and Polymer Science, where under the position of researcher, he explored the process and development of products from rubber and polymer. Now, more interestingly, in 2016, he started the Trash Hero Patani, and more recently, last year, in fact, he started TL John. He's now here to tell us more about his journey in turning rubbish into marketable products. Welcome, Padanya. Thank you for joining us. Wonderful to have you here online from Patani. Tell us more about what you've been doing there.
Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Padanya Ahri. I'm from Thailand. I'm General Manager and co-founder of Telejon. Next slide. Today I will talk about our ultimate dream is that Telejon will come to an end. Next slide. I start with the question. You see the picture? Do you know what it is and what is made of? Okay, I don't answer you now, but I will answer you next slide together. I am a researcher. I work 2 places at Telejon SE and Department of Rubber Technology and Polymer Science, both near the sea. When I went to the sea, I saw thread everywhere. So I feel that this situation become our responsibility. I should to do something for fix this problem. Okay. I'm sorry. When I went to the sea, I saw thread everywhere, and at the same time, I'm graduate degree with relate rubber and polymer. People like me invent and create all product from rubber and polymer used in the world, and all these product become to thread that I see by the beach. So I feel that situation become our responsibility. I should to do something for fix this problem. From thread issue, changed me from a man who see thread, now who conquer thread. Next slide. I and my friends start Thread Hero. Thread Hero is a non-profit organization. The first chapter started in Thailand, and now extend around the world more than 200 chapters. I and my friends start Thread Hero Patani at Patani province, the south of Thailand. We collect thread every week and increase awareness and communicated about thread problem to people. Next slide. I remember the first day we invite people to join collect thread together. The feedback we received was like, you will never make it if you don't change people's habit first, and you need to change their mindset. However, Thread Hero is different. We don't complain and never blame anyone. We don't mind them. We don't ask local government to help us. We want to be clean up and then be done. We invite people to join us and teach them about our problem, increasing of thread in the ocean. After collect thread, we weigh thread, count number of hero, and take a photo with thread we collect. Sometimes we swimming, and sometimes we prepare stand up paddleboard for people, for volunteer to play it. We want to people to join activity is happy. Next slide. This is the data of thread hero Pattani. We have cleaned up 303 times in 5 years, 6 months. Total of 12,564 hero. 4,232 of which were under 16, have collect thread 31,816.9 kilogram along the beach in Pattani. Total is amazing for me, but amount of thread hero collect in 5 years, 6 months equal 3 day amount of thread at Pattani province increased. Many thread at Pattani. Next slide. Besides Thread Hero Pattani, we have a other volunteer group called Progging Pattani. Progging is from jogging and pick up too. We exercise and clean area too. Next slide. This is the data of Progging Pattani. Okay, next slide. And next slide. After collect thread hero Pattani and Progging Pattani, we separate thread about 5 types. Easy separate thread. The first, the plastic bottle. For plastic bottle, we give to local government to sell it. And 2 glass bottle. For glass bottle, we bring back and clean it and break to small piece, mix with color and press sand. 3 lighter. For lighter now we make floor, terrazzo, and now we try to make lamp from lighter too. And 4 general thread. General thread is a thread cannot be used, cannot recycle. We give to local government bring it to landfill. And 5 old sandal. For old sandal, when we find, we bring back and upcycling to new shoe. Next slide. Initiation to make shoe. I don't know the process, the recycle. I don't know how to make sandal. I and my team test with students who workshop at department. And in the picture, it is the first shoe from recycled material. Next. He tell me he follow this picture, and then I learn and practice how to recycle and how to make sure until we know the step. The first, when we receive the old sandal, we clean it and break it to small pieces, mix with glue, compression with compression molding, transform sheets under temperature and pressure, and cut with die cut different size of sole, and send all components to villager in Pattani for make it. Next slide. The picture is a villager at Pattani. Next slide. And the 3 components of telejon, the part of bottom and sole and upper. The part of bottom we make from reject growth. Growth is the product test 100% if half whole will reject. We use reject growth 80% and mix with new rubber 20% and make the part of bottom. And from for sole we make from thread is a 100% of old sandal, and the part of upper we make from the surplus from textile industry. 3 components of telejon 3 components of shoe we make from reject, thread, and surplus. Okay, next slide. For packaging, we use the batik code for packaging. Batik code is the local code in the southern of Thailand. We want to communicate about culture, trust batik code bag, and batik code bag can be usable. And next. Now we have a 7 model of the sandal. Lipe, Summit, Samui, PP, Patong, Tonsai. The name of shoe is the name of island and be volunteer collect thread and separate all sandal sent to me. And next slide. This pair of shoe are different. One in the world cannot repeat it because the color of shoe depend on thread we collect. Difficult to control the color. Next slide. The name of shoe is Thale John. Thale is Thai Sea. John from journey. Sandal journey in the ocean, continent to continent, country to country, and now stop on the beach in Thailand. Volunteer fry it and send to me for make a new life. Okay, next slide. The truth is focused on creasing shoe from thread. We want to increase awareness. Oh no. Besides sandal, we have a sneaker and cut shoe. We cooperate with other shoe brand, convey it message to more consumer. The first we cooperate with Lalin. Lalin make the pass of upper from the local coast in the north of Thailand, Chiang Mai and Lampang province, and make and use so and the bottom from Telejon. Next slide. And TIID use so and the pass of bottom from Telejon. Next slide. Musina use so from Telejon. Next slide. Nanyang is the user from Telejon too, and Nanyang is the big band shoe in the Thailand. The truth of increasing the truth of main focus, I create shoe from thread. We want to increase awareness and communicate it, send message to people about of that problem through shoe. Next slide. When people see Telejon, we have a two questions to ask me is the first question, there is much thread that you can make many sandal. I tell the story of the first lot of thread shoe we received from Thread Hero Lipe. Next slide. Thread Hero Lipe collect threads around Adang, Lawi, and Lipe Island. We can collect amount 3 months. We collect thread 80,000 kilogram and have all sandal 8,000 kilogram are 10% of threads. It's just only 3 islands. If more island, if more country, how many all sandal and how many other threads? And second, all tourists dump mud thread in the ocean. I answer, that's not from tourists. Everyone, no matter where you are, the city, far from the sea, on the mountain, if thread management is not good, one day have storm, windy, and rain, thread can move and flow into the river. And the final phase of the river is an ocean. If we don't solve the thread issue together, the ocean, the last get food source in the world, may become to the last get bin in the world too. And when thread is in the sea so long, thread can break to small particle called microplastic, and aquatic animal eat it, and then human will later feed them for milk, and it's microplastic too. If in human body have microplastic a lot, it may affect to her health soon. Thread issue like a cancer. People know have cancer in your body and hard to get cured. How we stay happily with them? Such as use a usable bag, use a usable bottle. and start with yourself. And all this activity is cannot change. I think it cannot change that problem in my generation, but if we do continually, maybe in next generation, your son, your daughter, our home, our country, our ocean, our world can be cleaner. And our ultimate dream of Telejon is that Telejon will come to an end because no more threat for make sure. And next slide. And I have the fighting, Telejon have the fighting for tell people. And Telejon is an open innovation. We are very happy to share the concept of Telejon with everyone. And anyone can come to learn how to make flip-flop with us. Anyone can apply the technology and innovation without concern about copyright and patent. I think the document shall not block the idea from development, and we want to make more friends and learn from each other during the develop process. Our friend and network can help me to communicate about the threat problem too. If any one of them can do it better, they should do it. It is open to everyone. 2. Homeland. Our project aims to create more jobs in the local community and increase income to local people. Many people move out because there are no jobs for them, and many many who work in the city sell their own land in the community. When they want to move back after some time, such as COVID-19 pandemic, they know have place to go. Telejon set up the center in the local community and create jobs for them. People can work at home and they don't have to be away from their homeland. Handmade. We would love to place a high value on the item made by hand. Handmade item for us is a worthy because it shows the experience of the raw material, and more importantly, the item hold the story of the maker behind. We develop Telejon shoe with the local people who make them nicely. The shoes are surely superior in the concept and quality as much as we can. Capital or money. In the beginning of Telejon, we want to set up Telejon Center in the PSU Prince of Songkhan Nakarin University, Padanya campus, but the idea was not good for them. They did not feel comfortable to go out and work at the campus because of this reason. The first, they have to send and pick up their children at school, and some of them have to care for elderly people at the home. 2, they have to pay for gasoline and buy food and drink when going out. Normally, they cook and eat at home, don't pay money. And 3, most of our members are women, and the social contact in the southernmost province does not support women work away from home. Although we did not want to change their way of the life, we do not have enough money for buy the machine, for buy equipment, and set up the center in the community. But finally, we raised the money from the crowdfunding. We post on the Facebook about the problem and tell the people, if people want to help me, send money to me, and I will send the Telejon to return. It seems like pre-order. And I would like to say that the capital system does not really support funding for needy people. And crowdfunding might be an answer. The most important thing is that you really have to devote effort in your work. And the final, for fabric, each pair of Telejon we fix price that can be equally divided by three. The first is for transportation and for recycling process, and second for the villager who assemble the shoe, and three for seller, and seller must sell the telejon at the regulated price. This reduce inequality because normally when a business grow up, we will see gap between CEO and labor. That gap away go, but it's our model is not one happen because we move in parallel. Next slide. And next slide. Thank you everyone, and move to the video.รองเท้าที่เราเก็บมาได้เราก็จริงๆมันเนาะแต่นี้ก็จะเป็นบางเปิดผิวดูจากตรงนี้ได้เลยสีจะสดขึ้นแล้วก็อันนี้ก็จะประมาณเนี่ยนี่ก็อันนี้เป็นของที่เราบดเมื่อกี้สีน้ำเงินก็ดูได้เนี่ยมันก็ได้เป็นก้อนประมาณนี้ก่อนที่เราจะเอาไปอัดเป็นแผ่นเทลงไปได้เป็นคู่นึงละสองปุ๊บอันนี้ก็จะเป็นแผ่นThank you everyone.
Thanks so much, Padanya. That's a really fascinating insight into what you've been doing and some really wonderful products that I could see. I don't know if I ever imagined that flip-flops would be handmade, so it's really great. I do have several questions that I'd like to ask you, so please stay online until our panel discussion comes after our other speakers. So I now move to our second presentation for the day, or it's actually our third presentation for the day. And our speakers for this are Abdul Mohammed and Harith Hazmadi, who together are Hashadi. Now, as a fashion student, Abdul Mohammed is well versed in the textile and fashion industry. He was telling me that he's seen with his very own eyes how fabric scraps are simply thrown away, even when they're in mint condition. And his buddy, Harith Hasmadi, came across a video online of how fast fashion is causing environmental damage on a horrendous scale. And these two had an ever-increasing concern for the environment. And also, they said they had closets chock full of clothes at home. So together, they decided to utilize their skills and knowledge into combating this fashion dilemma. And aside from upcycling fabric remnants and used articles of clothing, this duo also helps to inspire and educate the mass on how to curb fashion waste. So just a note, they were very unsure about how well their internet connection was going to work out today. So they've recorded something for us, but they will be joining us, fingers crossed, for the panel discussion later on. So I'll hand it over to the video.
Hi, I'm Harith Hasmadi, and I'm the guy behind Hashadi's Instagram. So I'm 24 this year, and I'm currently in my last year of degree. My role in Hashadi is basically taking care of our Instagram account, curating the pictures as well as the captions for each post. I would also be responsible in dealing with our customers.
Hello, I am Abdul Mohammed. I'm 26 years old and I graduated last year. So my job here is designing, cutting, sewing, and taking pictures of our bags. Sounds fabulous, huh? It's a lot of fun going through the clothes and fabric that we have and coming up with the designs. But sometimes it does get a bit tedious and repetitive.
So it all started when my mom asked me to clear my closet. She asked me to get rid of my unwanted clothes. Clothes that no longer fit, deemed out of style, or ones that are just collecting dust in the closet. Most, if not all of these clothes are in mint condition. It would be a waste to simply throw them away, and I have no idea who or where to donate these clothes to. So what I did was I brought them to my friend, Mohammed, who is a phenomenal seamster. I asked him whether he could turn these garments into tote bags, and the rest is history.
Upon receiving the request, at first I was a bit unsure of how to go about making the tote bag or how it would turn out. I had to sit down for a while and think of how to execute the tote bag. Believe it or not, there are a lot of technicalities involved in making a bag. It's not just simply cutting a piece of fabric and putting it through the sewing machine. It requires some thought put into it, especially when we are using articles of clothing such as a t-shirt and a pair of pants. These materials have a limited amount of fabrics and they have these unique features such as buttons, zippers, and cuffs that need to be taken into account. There simply isn't any room for error.
After our first batch of tote bags, we decided to make more. That was when we came across the term upcycling. We learned that our landfills are actually overflowing with waste and that we are running out of options. One of the contributing factors to this problem is fast fashion. So what is fast fashion? Fast fashion can be defined as cheap, trendy clothing that samples ideas from the catwalk or celebrity culture and turns them into garments in high street stores at breakneck speed to meet consumer demand. The idea is to get the newest styles on the market as fast as possible so shoppers can snap them up while they are still at the height of their popularity and then sadly discard them after a few wears. It forms a key part of the toxic system of overproduction and consumption that has made fashion one of the world's largest polluters. Alright, so going back to the landfill problem. Every second, the equivalent of one garbage truck of textiles is landfilled or burned. Our landfills are overflowing with textile waste a conservative estimate is that clothing and textiles make up 7% of landfills globally, although many believe this figure is closer to 12%. The average US citizen reportedly throws away 70 pounds, which is 31.75 kilograms of clothing and other textiles each year. So upon discovering this terrible fact, we made a pact to only utilize used garments or fabrics in making our bags. We would never buy new fabrics. This is our small contribution towards the cause.
Thus far, we have made an array of bags, from the simple tote bag, pouches, pencil case, duffel bag, clasps, and handbags. We are very humbled by the overwhelming responses that we have whenever we release our bags. We have been very fortunate to have such supportive and generous family members and friends. They have donated countless used garments and fabric to us. They have also helped by sharing our posts and spreading the news about our little business to others. So far, we have had the opportunity to use and experiment with so many types of clothing. We have used the typical shirts and t-shirts, denim, kain batik, vests, apron, skirts, baju kurung, baju Melayu, and even blazers. Each and every article of clothing is unique in their own way, and we definitely had an interesting time making these bags.
We're very proud to share some of our achievements along our journey. We were lucky enough to be invited to be on Malaysia Hari Ini and to be featured on The Star. It definitely still feels surreal to be given such opportunities. But for us, our proudest and most impactful achievement would have to be that we managed to collect 1,253 ringgit for a fundraising event. The money was donated to Equinites, an environmental NGO, and the fund was used to provide water filters to Orang Asal so that they could get access to clean water. It feels great that we were able to give back to the community while saving the earth.
We hope that our story will make people realize that each and every one of us has what it takes to make a change. If you can't think of a way to save Mother Nature, the best thing that you can do is by spreading awareness and educating others. Not only that, nowadays you can find so many helpful articles or videos on how to reduce your carbon footprint. You can also look up crafty tutorials on how to give your old items a new purpose, just like how we recycle used clothes into bags. In difficult time like this, you can also gain some cash while you are at it. Take it from us, another man's trash might be another man's treasure.
Oh, I hope you found that as interesting and inspiring as I did. Thanks to both of you, Mohammed and Harith, and I look forward to bringing you into the conversation in a little while after our next presentation. And so our final presentations for today is by Suksiri Chamsuk and Edward Clarence Smith. So Suksiri has almost 20 years experience working on sustainable development here in Malaysia and elsewhere in Asia. She has a master's in energy for sustainable development, and for the past 18 years, she has been within the United Nations system, and she's currently with UNIDO, the United Nations Industrial Development Organization. Suksiri focuses on decoupling environmental impacts from economic activities, and her area of expertise includes the circular economy for effective waste management and waste to energy, as well as low carbon transition. Her work has ranged from both upstream policy advisory and intervention and downstream project formulation and management levels. So joining her is Edward Clarence Smith, who is currently a senior consultant on green industry and circular economy and working on various UNIDO and UNEP projects. Many involve awareness raising and training on circular economies. He also delivers an annual course at Kyoto University on sustainable industrialization within a circular economy. He holds degrees and masters from Edinburgh and MIT, and he has had a great deal of experience working in environmental management, including for the private sector, for NGOs, government agencies, and more recently, for almost 20 years with UNIDO. He has quite a resume, very impressive list of organizations and roles he's been involved with. And if I read them all out, we'd be here the whole day. So thank you for joining us today, Suksiri. And Ned, I hand it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. And with the inspiring previous speakers, Ned and I, we hope we can keep up the bar. So before we start, I would like us to introduce our session. Again, Suksiri Jamsuk from UNIDO Regional Office in Thailand. I will start first, and Ned will be next. Okay, so I will first give you an overview of the fashion industry, both upside and the downside. We heard a lot of the downside already, I believe. So I will not go into that detail. I promise you that. And then I will talk about the impacts from the COVID on the industry. And before Ned going to offer UNIDO approach on how to speed up this transition to circular and sustainable fashion industry, I will just offer you some thoughts about the COVID, whether this pandemic gives us opportunity to do so. So let's just go right in. First of all, the fashion industry plays a central role in creation of income and jobs, employing over 60 million people worldwide. In addition, globally, household purchases of fashion goods were estimated at as high as 1.7 billion US dollar. This is of course pre-COVID in 2018. So this makes this sector the second largest market for consumer goods, just after the food and drink sector. As you can see from the graph, the share of this sector in a country overall manufacturing value added is very high. And there are many countries that number is very high, more than 1/3 of their manufacturing value added. We have here Bangladesh has the highest, biggest share of the industry over the country's manufacturing value added in the world, with more than 50% of their manufacturing value added is contributed by this fashion industry. The other two countries from Asia that made it to the largest share, the top 10 largest share, are Sri Lanka and Myanmar. So next slide. Okay. We heard previous speakers already, and now we are aware that this industry is not all nice and shiny. The fashion industry, I believe two previous speakers also emphasizing this, is thought to be one of the most polluting industries in the world. This industry emits the high water and carbon footprint. This sector also uses very intensive chemicals. And these chemicals are not only hazardous to the environment and human health, it also makes it hard to or even impossible for textile recycle. This is because detoxification of these hazardous chemicals is needed, and this is very costly. Previous speaker already mentioned about fast fashion. Fast fashion comes very cheap, and these cheap fashions come at the cost of workers. These workers are underpaid, overworked, and they are put in a very unsafe condition. Now, the question is, what happened after COVID? This sector is believed to be one of the most hard hit by COVID. The lockdown measure that caused disruption in this value chain, both supply side and demand side. Almost half of the jobs in this garment sector, which is around 29 million jobs, are relying on demands from those countries with the most stringent lockdown measures. So this means that the retail sales in those countries were dropped very sharply, and as a result, this has an effect on workers who are on these jobs. They are likely to suffer from losses, either loss of the job or loss of the working hour. So this leads to the loss and reduction of their income. Now, on the supply side, there are those producers in the countries that are highly dependent on imported inputs. These are countries with vulnerable to disruption than those countries with domestic inputs into their supply chain. As you can see in this graph, garment sector in Southeast Asia, such as Cambodia or Vietnam, is more vulnerable because of they import a large share of their inputs from China. Whereas, as you can see from the graph, South Asia and East Asia countries, on average, they are less vulnerable. Also because, mainly because they source their inputs domestically within their countries. This slide shows that China, India, the Philippines, and Sri Lanka experienced the very largest drop in their export since this COVID, and due to this both supply chain interruption and the drop in the sales. So what have we learned from this? Can we take this as a wake-up call? Personally, I believe so. There are two sides of the supply chain that made me believe this way. The consumption side, the consumer. The consumers with this new normal, they are adapting to new normals. They become more responsive consumption, both of these, these social distancing as well as reduce of their income. So these two major factors combined, it caused reduction of the purchasing power. And again, online meetings or events, such as this one, it could have been nice to meet you all in KL. However, this online event, as you would kind of agree with me, it actually requires less cost. So this is from the consumption side, and also from the producer side. Our UNIDO study shows that producers are considering, this is due to COVID, producers are considering adoption of digital technologies to replace workers. And the good news is they are also aware that they too need to adapt. And majority of them also admit that just survival and recovery might not be enough. They too need a sustainable recovery. So this will be my last slide before I hand over to Ned, who will save the day by offer the how part. So what is sustainable fashion? I've been looking around. I believe there is no Bible or, kind of a strict definition of sustainable fashion. So I'm offering mine here so that it can just kind of make a transition to the how that Ned would offer. Basically, to me, sustainable fashion must offer the following. So they should offer least environmental impacts throughout their value chain from downstream to upstream. They also should offer social benefits such as fair employment conditions, again, throughout value chain. Sustainable fashion needs to make business sense, makes profitable to enterprises, name it be maker, producer, or a retailer. And lastly, sustainable fashion should be affordable for all range of consumers, both price as well as the fashion taste. We cannot call sustainable fashion without it being fashionable to whoever would wear that. So that would be my take. And with that, I'm handing over to Ned to offer the how of UNIDO approach on circular economy for fashion industry. So Ned, over to you. I'm going to stop sharing now because I believe Ned would share his slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Suksiri. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, all of you from wherever you are. And I must say it's a personal pleasure for me to be back, at least even if it's in this electronic form with my old friends in Southeast Asia. Let me just share my screen now. So how? So let me walk you through UNIDO's approach from a circular economy point of view in the fashion industry. And I'm going to use this diagram of circular economies as my guide and as your guide. It's the diagram that has been used by UNIDO. It's really an adaptation of, for those of you who know it, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation diagram. That's often called the butterfly diagram. This one, if you want, is a butterfly with its wings closed. And it shows the various circular economy practices that can be used in a circular economy in general. So let's just talk a little bit about the clothing industry, the fashion industry, and specifically, since we're talking circular economies, and in circular economies, what is really important is material flows. Let's look at the material flows globally in the clothing industry. And as you can see, it is a highly linear economy. It's a highly linear sector. The great majority of inputs to this sector are virgin feedstock of one form or another, with very little being recycled either from the sector itself or from feedstocks outside of it. And most of it is disposed of. Much of it is landfilled or incinerated, as has been said by previous presenters. There is the increasing problem of microfiber leakage. There are losses also in production, and there are losses during collection and reprocessing. And there's just a small amount that is very small amount that is actually recycled back to the beginning of the flow, and a bit more that is recycled or is actually downcycled in the form of rags, stuffing, and so on. So you have a highly linear sector. So what are the broad strategies that we all need to use, to adopt, if we are going to transition to a circular economy? Well, the first thing we all need to do is we need to narrow those flows of materials through our economies. and we simply need to need less materials. And we can do that through efficiency improvements, both at the production side as well as during use and any further reprocessing. We need to redesign our products so that they use or lose less materials. And of course, to reduce packaging, which is becoming a growing problem everywhere in the world. And then also we can narrow our flows by intensifying the use of our products. That is to say, to extract more use out of each product that we have through sharing schemes. That's narrowing, but we can also slow down flows, which is extending a product's useful life. And we can do that by each of us as consumers ensuring a longer use to each of our products, to ensure that our products get greater second-hand use, second-hand, third-hand, fourth-hand use, and then, of course, through maintenance and repair of our products. And it's finally then that we get to the third overall broad strategy, which is closing the loops, which is, of course, recycling, but recycling not only of the materials that are locked up in old products, but also the recycling of still usable product parts that are in old products, which we can do through remanufacturing, refurbishing, and so on. So coming back to this diagram now, where exactly would those three broad strategies apply? They generally apply everywhere, but some of them apply more in certain parts of the cycles. For instance, oops, we went a bit faster. For instance, narrowing of flows will be something that is definitely done at the production side. It's also done during use. Slowing down flows will be more here in repair and reuse, as well as remanufacturing. And then closing of the loops will, of course, be recycling and regeneration of biological nutrients, but also to a certain degree in remanufacturing. So now let's have a look at how those three broad strategies might be implemented for clothes. And I want to start with the textiles that make up the clothes. I think the most important of those three strategies in this case is slowing down flows. We have to go from fast fashion to slow fashion. Much as we have been going from fast food to slow food, we have to go from fast fashion to slow fashion, which is really to massively extend the utilization rates of our clothes. As the previous video mentioned, our cupboards are stuffed full of clothes. We need to reuse and use and continually extend the use of those clothes. But also what we can do is we can have a thriving and even bigger secondhand market than we do now in clothes, so that we can extend the use of our clothes through multiple users using them. We can, of course, also narrow the flows. We can do that certainly during production. We can improve efficiency by having less offcuts and improve during processing, reprocessing at the end of the chain through less wasted clothes. We can design or actually redesign our clothes so that they use less textiles and they lose less textiles during use, the whole microfibers issue. And we can extend concepts of sharing in terms of rental of clothes and create other sharing schemes for clothes. And then, of course, we can close the loops by recycling the fibers that are locked up in waste clothes, or not as good a type of recycling, cascading used textiles to lower types of use, like furniture stuffing, like fiber in insulation material. And then, of course, there's all of those other materials that are used in the textile and clothes sector. They too can be the subject of these three strategies. And here, I think it's more the narrowing the flows strategy that is more important. We can improve efficiency during production all the way from the farm to the factory, to waste less auxiliary substances, water, pesticides, dyes, solvents, surfactants, and so on and so on. There are thousands, literally thousands of materials and chemicals that are used in one way or another in the textiles industry. We can again also redesign clothes so that they need less auxiliary substances during production and in the finished product, and that they lose less auxiliary substances during use and reprocessing. As for slowing down flows, that I covered in the previous slide. In terms of closing loops, we can work to reuse still usable clothes parts, the buttons, the zips, and so on. And then we can recycle the materials that make them up if they are no longer usable. And then cross-cutting all of this, and already mentioned, we need to design out the use of any hazardous or toxic or ecotoxic substances which go into the clothes themselves or are used during the production processes as auxiliary chemicals. We need to do that to detoxify the cycles and to help also in making the cycles safer and healthier. So moving forward, looking first at the private sector, companies in the sort of fiber, textile, garments, waste garments, value chain, looking at that whole value chain from a circular economy point of view, they must first make strategic decisions about which circular economy business model they want to adopt. And here in this box, I have, as an example, 5 business models that have been proposed by the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. The first would be a model where companies focus on using renewable energy and bio-based or fully recyclable inputs into their products. A second kind of model would be resource recovery, where companies again recover useful resources out of the materials, byproducts, or waste of their sector. Or one could be looking at product life extension, where companies are extending product life cycles through repairing, upgrading, or reselling, as well as through innovation and product design. There's a business model of sharing platform, which is connecting product users to one another and encouraging shared use, access, or ownership to increase product use. And then finally, there is the concept, the model of products as service, move away from product ownership and offer customers paid access to products. So those are 5 possible business models, and the garment owners, which are the brands and perhaps also the non-brands, they will then need to redesign their garments to fit whichever of these business models they choose. And actually, I think one can have a combination of these business models. And for this to actually work, it's going to require collaboration between all of the players in the new circular economy material cycle that is involved. Now, just a note, companies in global supply chains especially might actually be very constrained in what they can do. Essentially, they might be, as I've put it, at the mercy of decisions made by brand owners. In a way, the brand owners are here the major deciders, and many of the companies and supply chains will just have to follow those decisions. As for policy development, there are many, many policies that could be used to promote circular economy in the textile sector. I just want to mention one, which I think is going to be a game changer in the future, and that's extended producer responsibility regulations. Extended producer responsibility regulations, for those who don't know, it's where essentially governments put the responsibility of the management of a product when it becomes waste onto the manufacturer of that product. Either the manufacturer is directly responsible for managing the waste, or the manufacturer pays a third party to do that. And of course, the idea is that by doing so, the manufacturer is now not only getting the benefit from selling that product, but is also having to bear the cost of dealing with that product once it becomes waste. And the idea then is that with that cost now on the books, the manufacturer will take steps to make sure that a product can be recycled or that its lifetime can be extended or other types of practices can be adopted, which would then reduce that new cost which they have to bear. In terms of EPR for textiles, France is the leader here. They've had an EPR for textiles since 2007. The main elements of its EPR is that the producers of clothing, home textiles and footwear, so it's quite wide, they have to pay a contribution to an accredited so-called producer responsibility organization, or they can, if they want, create their own individual take-back programs, but those programs have to be approved by the authorities. As far as the PRO is concerned, it will reduce the contribution that producers have to make if they can show that they're using recycled fibers from pre or post-consumer CHF. They make collection points accessible to consumers via on-street collection containers, charities, and take-back collection shops. They monitor the sorting and recycling channels, and any collected material which isn't sold or distributed to individuals in need or exported, it's shipped to sorting and recycling facilities. The EU is going to pick up on this, and it's going to bring in a few years' time, a very similar EPR regulation, which will then apply to the whole of the EU. And of course, this is going to be very important, I think, for those in the supply chain, because the brands are going to start making decisions, I think, I would imagine, based on this EPR, which might well change the way the supply chains work in the textile industry. Talking of UNIDO very quickly, as you might imagine, as an organization that is focused on industry, the projects that it does in the textile area, I've just listed the ones that are going on at the moment, that they have tended to focus on ensuring greater efficiency during production, both of the textiles, but also of all of those other auxiliary chemicals and so on. But there are now also new projects which are also looking at how we can have loop closure, how the manufacturing sector can bring about closure of the loops. And in preparation for Q4 of 2021 is a project on circular economy for the SDGs in Malaysia that is going to be formulated, and it will involve used clothes and apparel. Thank you for your time, and I will hand over the floor back to the moderator.
Thanks so much, Edward and Suksiri. That was a really interesting presentation. Some really interesting insights there. And I'm sure our audience has got a lot of questions for you, so please stay with us, stay online. And I'd like to now invite our other speakers today to come back for the panel discussion. So if I can ask Harith, Abdul and Padanya and Liligo to all switch on your cameras and microphones so that you're ready for the Q&A. So a quick word on how we might be running this. So you can either post a question in the chat box, but it'd be great if you can clearly say who your question is for. And I can try and get to as many of those as possible. But even better is you raise your hand and we'll call on you, and then you can get to ask your question directly. So I'm just going to start with a couple of questions first while I wait for people to get their hands. And my first question is actually for Liligo. I hope you're ready for us. So in your presentation, you mentioned a couple of inspirational characters. I think it was an abbot, a monk in Bangkok, and also the Taiwanese entrepreneur who's sort of doing things with the circular economy. And what I want to know is, how do we move from circularity being in the hands of these few inspirational people, and how do we make it become, more mainstream, more the norm? And the second half of this question, because we're really talking about fashion and what have you, how do we compete with the global fashion industry that spends millions of dollars every year on advertising? They've got billboards everywhere. They've got, it's always fashion brands in the most high profile locations in shopping malls and things. And, how can we touch people so that they also embrace circular fashion? Edward just now mentioned that slow fashion might be a way to go forward. Do you think this is a way forward? I know there's multiple layers in that question. Sorry to be complicated.
No worries. Thank you so much for the question. And thank you to all of our speakers for sharing such important points and for your passion for this subject. It's absolutely incredible to recognize that here I am sitting in the United States at 1:30 in the morning, being able to listen in to all of you talk about these things that are so relevant to the world today. So thank you. Duncan, I'd like to answer the first part of your first question, which is how do we normalize a circular economy? And within the concept of normalizing the circular economy, there are two pathways we can consider. First is a policy pathway, and second is a people pathway. So when we think about circular economy, we generally think that it's within the realm of the abstract meaning the policy realm or people working behind the scenes in business. So if we're thinking about Taiwan as a case study, for instance, their government has embedded circular economy as one of their principles for a new economic model that they wanted to use to revitalize their economy, revitalize their environment, and help push forward into a new era to serve as a role model for the Asia Pacific region and ultimately the world. So what they've done is they've embedded this concept of circularity into their policies. The challenge, however, is that the notion of circularity, what that even means, is very different depending upon what area of the value chain you exist in, and also your own concept of what circular economy is. When I was living in Taiwan and speaking to many different people operating specifically in the plastic supply chain, we had many different ideas and competing notions of what circularity would look like. And because there was no concrete definition that a government then said, I have a standard and everyone has to adhere to it, you had people working in all these different silos and pockets trying to do this thing, but kind of running into issues in terms of standardization. So if we're thinking about normalizing it, government needs to take a firm stance on what circularity is and then build out a program for that. So in the context of Taiwan, for instance, if you're looking at circularity from a recycling perspective, they built a recycling fund that's essentially supported by the Extended Producer Responsibility Scheme, where producers of particular goods that are both made in Taiwan and imported to Taiwan must pay a fee into this fund. The fund goes and funds local waste management infrastructure, and then it also supports grants to green entrepreneurs to promote circularity at large. Then if you look at the idea of normalizing it from a people perspective, again, most people are very disconnected from what circular economy is. It's too abstract, it's too policy heavy, it's maybe a buzzword within some business environments, but who outside of us really understands what circularity is? Very, very few people. So when you're trying to bring the idea of circularity into people's lives, you have to connect it to an individual. So one of the metaphors that I always use is the notion that humans go through different stages of life. We're children, we become learners, we become workers, we become adults, we have families, and in each one of those stages of life, we take on a different identity. Likewise, our products, if we allowed them to go through different stages of life, can become different things. So it's about tying these key concepts of circularity to the way everyday people live so they can embrace that notion within themselves. Then the second question I believe you asked is what is the response to a big international push by marketers and advertisers who are trying to push for fast fashion? Well, I'm a big believer that it's not about just having things visible in your face. The power really comes from the connections you have to people. So if you're walking through a city and you see tons of billboards, you're looking at magazine, you get flashes of these images that construct your idea of the world. But really, how humans are shaped are based on the notions of their relationships and the stories that they're connected to. So your family, your community, these strong social relations are ultimately what gives people, particularly young children, a connection to the world, to understand how the world can be and how they see themselves in it. So when we're thinking about the advertising companies spending hundreds of millions of dollars on big billboards and big ads, it's actually because they're competing with people like us and our families. our mothers, our fathers, our role models who have direct connection to people. And because that relationship piece is so critical. So if we're really trying to push forward this notion of circularity, we have to emphasize it on a relationships base with who we're connected to in our community, who we care about, and then share that with others.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Harry, I want to pick up on something that Lily Gold mentioned, or two things that she mentioned there. I'd like to hear your take on it from a Malaysian point of view. So she did talk about in Taiwan the government being very involved in sort of pushing the circular economy notion. So I'd like to know, you started a business. Do you feel that the government is assisting, and how might they help push that aspect for you? But secondly, I'm curious as to who your customers are. And this thing that Lily Gold said about the big brands, they're actually competing with ordinary people as well. Is that true in your experience?
All right. Hi. First of all, thank you for giving me.
It's quite hard to hear you. Your microphone's very soft.
Oh, really? Yeah. Hold on. Is it better now?
Slightly better, yeah. Yeah, just try and speak up.
Okay, I think I need to hold the mic to my mouth. Okay, is it better now? Okay. Okay, so first of all, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be here with everyone. It is truly an honor. So going about the first question, in terms of government involvement of this recycling issue from a Malaysian POV, I think sadly, I think first of all, if we want to make accessibility a lifestyle, the government definitely has to do their part, because I think nowadays most people are they are in the know about recycling, about all this going green and stuff, but the government needs to do something so that people it's easy for people to go green. For example, they need to provide recycling centers that are accessible to people, to the community, okay, because I think if given the opportunity, most people will do their part. So yeah, the government definitely needs to do something about it, and sadly as a Malaysian, I don't see that in my country.
Thanks, Harry. So I'd like to go north to Patani and see how the government in Thailand supports your industry, Padanya.
Pardon, please. Miss Suksiri, you can help me to translate to Thai, please. But I'm not sure the question.
Okay, so do you feel that the government in Thailand helps what you're trying to do, or do you have to do it without their help?
You mean I feel the government feel the activity I do.
Yes.
From the government.
May I help so that he can a bit?
Sure.
I would be interested to hear from him as well. It's very interesting question actually. ค่ะงั้นเดี๋ยวพี่ถามเป็นภาษาไทยนะคะแล้วก็คุณปริญญาตอบเป็นภาษาอังกฤษเนาะดีไหม So he will respond in English so that everyone can understand ก็คือคำถามประมาณว่าสิ่งที่คุณปริญญาทำอ่ะปริญญาเนาะพี่เรียกชื่อถูกไหมคุณปาร์คแล้วกันมีได้รับ ความช่วยเหลืออะไรบ้างจากทางภาครัฐและเหมือนกับว่าเขาทำเพียงพอไหมได้รับหรือเปล่าเขาทำเพียงพอไหมอยากได้รับความช่วยเหลืออะไรจากเขาเพื่อที่จะให้ไอโครงการนี้มันอาจจะไปได้ไกลกว่านี้อะไรอย่างเงี้ยค่ะเชิญค่ะ
Normally I and my team have a local government to help us for collect trash at some time and invite me and my team to teach and tell people in the local community for teach about the trash problem and separate trash and I will tell the if you separate trash at we can recycle and we can reduce trash and we communicate to people about of the recycle is not work in the long term for recycling but no more trash for recycle is not good. The recycle is difficult and complex and the process is expensive. If the government to help me, I want to help for the machine for the recycle for the local machine can recycle in community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's really interesting. I'm getting a feel that both the Malaysian and Thais feel the government could be doing more to push this, and currently it's in the hands of individuals, which is a shame. I mean, it's definitely something that we need to learn. Okay, a question now for Unido, and this is from Sudi, who's in Petaling Jaya here in Malaysia. And she wants to know, what is UNIDO's view towards the reliance of microfiber or woven plastic textiles? And the fact that it's made of plastic and it's now shredded into fine thread, and the likelihood of it turning into microplastic and nanoplastic are much higher. Which of you would like to discuss this?
I volunteer, Ned.
Excuse me, okay.
Because Ned has global view, so please, Ned, help us.
Great. I was about to volunteer CECs, but she got to the mute button before I did. Okay, so let me have a go at that. To be honest with you, I mean, and this is just my personal sense. I think that the whole issue of microfibers is going to have to be something that governments are going to have to get involved in. They're going to have to regulate. It could be, of course, that textile companies themselves, fashion companies, step up to the plate here and do whatever is necessary in the design of their products, of their clothes, so that the general problem of microfibers is reduced. But I suspect that this is an area where government is going to have to step in, and it's going to have to start setting product standards, or possibly emission standards, or possibly process standards, whatever it's going to take to get a handle on this problem. So my expectation is that we're going to see greater government intervention on this issue of microfibers.
An interesting point that was raised by David Greenfield in the chat box was, according to Zero Waste Scotland, for every ton of textile waste produced, there's 21 tons of carbon emitted. And if we don't have that waste, we don't have carbon emissions. And of course, we have COP 2026 going on, about to go on. So this is a very relevant issue, I think. Okay, Lilygol, I think another question for you. I suspect that you might be the best person for this. So does or should ethical production and consumption issues, so livelihood, wage and working conditions, gender issues, etc., in addition to recycling and upcycling, be added to the notion of circularity in sustainable fashion? And how are we doing it in the examples that we've shared today? So that's maybe a question for Harris and Padanya.
Sure. I mean, look, the fact of the matter is the linear economy that we live in today does not take into account the externalities of environmental impact or human impact. So if we're really trying to move forward to a more sustainable model that is regenerative, then of course it has to take in consideration how people are living, what their working conditions are like, how they're treated. We should definitely make that a standard. I mean, if you look at cradle to cradle certification, for instance, one of their key standards that they use in terms of ranking different types of companies and products has to do with ethical wages, fair working conditions. And I think that also is very much tied to this idea of connection. And this is something that I really, really like underscored in my talk, but I think is really devalued when we're thinking about these things, which is how you carry yourself through this earth, from how you eat to what clothes you wear, connects you to people. Every single choice that you make affects someone, somewhere, or something. And I think there's this great, we live in a time of great loss and great disconnection, even though we have all these incredible technological platforms. But there's this sense of corrosion and emptiness that we need to reestablish by making sure that we put people first. That when you put people first and future care first and planet first, all those three things can be embedded in the idea of a circular economy because we are a part of that environment. Nothing gets made with or without us within the context of the human realm. So yes, I think it's absolutely important.
I think an interesting point that you just raised there, I mean, maybe not within the lifetime of us here, but within our parents' lifetimes, everything you bought was made locally. You know, you'd go to the shop and you'd buy a pair of shoes that had been made by somebody that served you in the shop. And the idea of buying a pair of shoes or a shirt that's made 5,000 kilometers away would have been ludicrous. And I think that's how we have lost, you know, like you're saying, we've lost this connection, you know, with the things that we buy. I'm not sure if we have any other questions, but I have something for Harith and for Padanya. Because you're both sort of at the industry end of it, you know, I'm very curious as to, for each of you, you know, the last 18 months, 20 months, we've had COVID-19, as you know, and there's been all these restrictions in place. You know, how have you dealt with these restrictions? And as things ease going into 2022, 2023, how do you think the impact is going to be for your particular business, your specific business? Do you think we're going to have learned anything from the fact that we've not been able to go to shopping malls and buy fast fashion? Do you think we've made a change in our behaviors? Maybe first to you, Harith. And Suksuri, I might need you to translate this, please.
Hello. Okay. So basically, what kept us going initially was, to be honest, it was the positive feedbacks as well as overwhelming reaction to our bags. It really feels amazing to have people actually wanting to own what you made, and even if they didn't buy anything from us, we had tons of people commenting and DMing us such nice things. So, you know, it really goes to shows that a little kindness goes a long way. And, you know, as what was questioned, I think because for us, we don't have a physical store. We only sell our bags, you know, through social medias like Twitter and Instagram. So I think in the long run, you know, these sites would definitely, or e-commerce would definitely be the norm because one, of course, you don't have to pay rent for, you know, shops and stuff. So I think even, you know, like in the US, for example, Amazon, you know, they have made such staggering profits. In Asia, you know, Shopee is the norm. So nowadays, yeah, shopping online is definitely the way to go.
And Padanya, Suksuri, maybe you can translate.
Sure, thanks. I will. so คุณปาร์คเนาะคือคำถามคือประมาณว่าช่วงโควิดมีปัญหาอะไรหรือเปล่าแล้วก็จัดการยังไงถ้ามันแบบว่าเหมือนกับถ้ามันไม่ดีครบยังไงมีมาตรการยังไงที่จัดการให้ธุรกิจไปได้ดีอย่างเงี้ยค่ะแต่เข้าใจว่าจะอย่างหรือว่าถ้าไปได้ดีอย่างคุณฮาริสอย่างเงี้ยคือเขาเหมือนกับว่าเขาขายออนไลน์เนาะมันก็เลยกลายเป็นว่ายิ่งช่วงโควิดยิ่งขายดีอย่างเงี้ยค่ะก็อยากแชร์ประสบการณ์ช่วงโควิดแล้วก็เหมือนกับว่าไอพวกมาตรการที่ทำช่วงโควิดเนี่ยมันจะแบบต่อเนื่องไปอีกหรือเปล่าอะไรอย่างเงี้ยค่ะเชิญค่ะ
for the COVID-19 pandemic, we the community, the villager in Pattani is the Telejon center in the community is closed because in the community have the COVID-19, but it cannot make more Telejon more, and we buy the we sell the Telejon at the stock, and I will tell the problem to people about our problem. If people want to get Telejon, you can you wait for me for the send Telejon to consumer later.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you to all of you. Our Q&A has been a little bit short. Is there anything anyone thinks that I've not given you the chance to say in the interests of free speech? Yes, Sukhsir.
Sure, thanks. Again, also thanks for the invitation. Well, if I can have my last kind of words to share with everyone, I actually would like to echo everyone, in particular Lily Go. You made a very right point earlier, and I had that in mind. Plan to share actually is a sense of every cash, every cent that we spend is for a cause. So basically, you consumers can choose to drive this circular, sustainable fashion forward with your own money, your own consumption. If you choose to buy cheap fashion, change your clothes every week so that you go back to the fast fashion, or you can think more, pay a little bit more, buy those materials that is eco-friendly and more durable so that it can last longer. So my short point is that every choice you make drives this circular and sustainable fashion. So choose wisely before you spend your money. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone. I'll invite Jacqueline to come back in, but thank you, Sukhsiri. Thank you, Padanya. Thank you, Edward. Thank you, Harry. And also thank you to you, Lily Gold. I know it's some ridiculous time for you now. You must be ready to get your pillow. So Jacqueline, can I hand everything back to you now?
Thanks so much, Duncan. To the audience, thank you for staying on with us. Can I please invite you guys to join us on Slido quickly to do just 3 polls we have for you today to end the webinar. So can you see the hopefully 1 second, I'm just going to shoot yes, can you see the screen? If you key into Slido and the code CCW 2021, if you could give us some feedback, that would be wonderful. And I'm going to leave this poll on for 1 minute. Okay, seems like a unanimous answer. That's great. Here is the next poll. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And then comes the final poll. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for your feedback. We will take note of it, and I appreciate very much all the inputs that you have shared with us today. So now moving forward, I just want to share my closing remarks. Thank you so much to everyone that was online with us today. We hope we have created an opportunity for you to become a change maker. So, whatever input you have shared with us today and whatever plans that you have after this webinar, CECs in Malaysia would like to support you in your call to action. All you have to do is hashtag us at Circular Economy Club on Instagram, and we will know how to get back to you. Tomorrow, we will have our Pitch It to Win It competition, and one of our sponsors, Circular Economy Institute in the US, is sponsoring one certification to the winner. Free mentoring program will be offered, as well as access to funding by the entrepreneurs. We have 5 teams tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. Ziapism from Johor Bahru, Zero Baracento from Milan, Galaxia System, Love Hero, and Ruby Moon from the UK. This is not to be missed, and I hope that you will join us tomorrow on a Saturday from 3 to 5 p.m. Malaysian time. We have as well in Malaysia an in-person event, a clothes swap. We want to encourage people to shop differently by circulating their pre-loved clothes. Take a screenshot, please. It will be held at Jaya One, the school tomorrow. Miss Melissa Tan, the Fashion Revolution Malaysia representative, is organizing it with Zero Waste Malaysia and Fashion Revolution Malaysia. Please switch on your video and welcome Miss Teresa Ng. She will be organizing the sale of the Eco Purse on behalf of the vulnerable groups and the coastal communities of Mantanani Island in Sabah. We hope that you will support the B40 community and the single mothers who are making the eco purses from the trash collected, especially single-use plastics. We would like to thank our Circular Economy Solutions partner, Clothwear. And also, if you are interested to find out more about their gym towels, feel free to contact Ms. Sarah Kedah. Take a screenshot as well for all the details. And most importantly, I would like to thank our strategic partners, Duncan Cave and Donnie Yu from Think City Institute, my CEC leaders from PJ, Suri Yo, CEC Penang, Josephine Tan, Mr. Tay Boon Hao, CEC Johor Bahru, as well as Boyd from CEC Penampang Sabah. Last but not least, Fashion Revolution representative, Miss Melissa Tan, who is going to be organizing the clothes swap tomorrow. Last but not least, I also would like to thank Circular Economy Club London for being one of our knowledge partners together with Circular Economy Institute. Also, Clean Seas Malaysia, the media partner, our youth outreach partner, Youth Wave, and Clothes Swap partners, as mentioned earlier. Ms. Nina Van Toulon is actually online with us, and she is from International Waste Platform. Thank you so much for joining us despite your busy schedule. Also, we would like to thank CEC Singapore, CEC Milan, Sham Ramkumar. You are still online with us. Thank you so much, as well as Laura from Singapore and Circular Economy Club Surabaya. We would also like to thank Align, which will be featured tomorrow via Katerina Rimachikova. Last but not least, everyone, we would like to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We know that today was a work day and it's a very busy day for all of you, but thank you for spending the last 2 hours with us online. I'm most grateful, and I hope that we will always keep in touch. Do drop me a message and I will attend to the chat box now. I'm sorry if I missed out some personal messages and personal requests, but thank you very much for joining us. See you tomorrow.